Hi everybody, Michelle Fitzgerald here today, and I'm going to talk with you a little bit about electromagnetic field exposures and some simple little things that I discovered in the last 6 to 12 months that I've adjusted in my own environment, and it has made me feel so much better. Many people may have these little problems and not even realize it, so I'm going to share this with you today. This has prompted me doing this particular little video is prompted by a seminar I did yesterday on subtle energy management of our subtle energy systems, and how by managing our subtle energy system we can boost our vitality levels, stay healthier, all that kind of stuff. But I got a question from a student, long-term student of mine, who sent a question in before the program started, and she asked if I had been experiencing, or if any other students had been experiencing and reporting hip and leg pain. And the fact is, yes, I have experienced that in the last couple of years. I think it's directly related to at least a chunk of it to what I'm going to share with you today, and I've had lots of reports to students. Certainly all of that I don't think is explainable, hip and leg pain, from electromagnetic field exposures, but I think a lot of that increasing hip and leg pain can be explained from electromagnetic field exposures, and it's just exposures that you may not be aware of, that you might be looking in different directions when it comes to radio frequency stuff and ELF stuff, and missing some of these more subtle things altogether that can really make a big difference. So let me come around and show you what I discovered. So the first thing I discovered is that it's really important. Here is my laptop computer. It's really important to realize that, especially if you've got newer equipment like newer laptops or iPad, smartphone, that type of thing, even desktop computers, the newer ones, if you have your computer set in airplane mode, which most of you, I hope, especially when you're not using your wireless connections, when you don't need the wireless, that you've got your computer in airplane mode. Well, we all were thinking that that was completely protecting us from radio frequencies, but that ends up not being true. And I'm going to show you, my computer right now is in airplane mode. This is a newer HP laptop, and you can see that this is a radio frequency meter measuring radio waves, and you can see that my computer is emitting radio waves, and it's in airplane mode. It was part of what was causing, months ago, I fixed this problem a long time ago, and the easy fix is simply scoot back. Notice as I move closer to the camera that the signal falls off. Scoot back from your computer a good, even when you're in airplane mode, a good 2 to 3 feet. Enlarge the text so it's easier to see, and that gets you out of harm's way when you're in airplane mode with that extra radio frequency stuff that none of us were really suspecting was even there. So that's number one. Just scoot back. Number two discovery had to do with my just voltages, just what are called ELF readings, extremely low frequency readings, that have to do with just the electrical energy coming into the computer. And you've got two basic possible sources of electrical energy coming into a computer. One source, let me move a little closer, would be your Ethernet cable if you're using a wired system. And another source would be if you're using an Ethernet cable system. And a lot of us are doing that these days because we want to be out of the wireless emissions, because we know how strong that radiation is from the wire when we have to have our computer in wireless mode, when we're using a Wi-Fi system, that is just so strong and harmful to the body. So more and more people are switching to Ethernet systems, but boy, this can kind of bite you in the butt if you don't know what you're doing with this. And that's what happened to me. So I'm doing the proper thing. I've got an Ethernet connection, and I also have a cord plugged into my computer. This is the charging cord here, right here. And it's got a grounding plug on the end of it, so when my computer is plugged in, and I always have it plugged in to help ground it, any extra energies from it, I have it always plugged in, and usually that handles the job. And when I use something like a electric field meter like this to measure voltages, that provided my system is grounded, it's got that cord in, I would get these nice, let me scoot back, low readings, like I hope you can see there. It says 0. It won't say 0 if I get too close to it because I'm holding a lot of body voltage right now because I've got these lights on to do this filming. But you see that. Well, I thought everything was just fine because I was getting that 0 reading on my computer by using an Ethernet connection and having my computer grounded. And lo and behold, I found that I had these excessively high voltages. I was developing all these, I was having a lot of leg and hip pain, and I was developing incredible pain in my right hand. And one day I connected the dots in that I realized that I was having a lot more pain when I was, after I had used my mouse and my computer, but especially my mouse, for an extended period of time. And I thought, well, how could that be? Because everything's all grounded. But I pulled out my meter and I measured to find with my little electric meter. Now, right now, everything should be in really good shape because I've got it all configured properly. Let's just see. Let me turn off these lights because they will add extra voltages to the room. And even my camera, because it's plugged in to a, there we go. We should be able to see 0 voltage on the keyboard and 0 voltage, whoops, on the mouse. But what I found when I checked this about 90 days ago, I found quite a different situation, and that was even though I had been using a grounding cable in the form of my electrical charger that's got the grounding plug on the end of it, I was using a different type of Ethernet connection, an Ethernet cable. And it was just a standard, like most people would use, Ethernet cable. And what was happening is there was so much excess voltage on coming out of my router in this particular house that I'm in, that the voltage, even though my computer was showing a 0 read and grounding out that extra voltage right at the computer site, there was so much extra voltage getting into the computer, it was actually bleeding in to these devices, into my USB keyboard and into my USB mouse, which I just assumed were at 0. I measured these things and there were readings of like 9 volts per meter at the mouse, even though the computer was measuring 0. It ended up, it was all a byproduct of way too much stuff coming in on the Ethernet cable. It's called stray voltages getting into the system. I'm convinced, it's not easy to measure this, but I'm convinced, and I douse, that I was also getting something called contact current right through the Ethernet cable as well, that it was like a current bleed into somehow, some kind of weird thing with current into my system. The long and the short of it, it was making me nauseated. It was causing like arthritic type symptoms in my hands. It was causing severe hip and leg pain for hours after I would use my computer. And the whole problem was resolved by making sure that the computer is always plugged in, like you see it here, so that it's grounding that way, and switching to a shielded, grounded Ethernet cable. So the message is you should probably just do that. But I highly recommend investing, if you don't already have, in these meters. This is a tri-field, a simple it's called a tri-field meter. Many sources sell it. You can find it on Amazon, so that you can stay on top of, I would have not been able to discover what was going on. I mean, I could kind of assume, because I recognized I wasn't feeling that great when I was touching the mouse, but there was no logical reason for that. I had nothing that logically supported that. But luckily I had this meter and I was able to measure, and to my surprise, I found out there were these excess voltages in these stray parts coming right over the Ethernet cable. So there you have it. Lesson for today. Jan, hopefully that gives you some insight into what could be causing that hip and leg pain. Might have to do with ELF stuff and with stray radio frequency stuff from a computer that's in flight mode. So bye for now. Hope that's helpful, and I'll talk to you next time.